right, welcome back. Today we are specifically going to be talking about organizational structure, and we're going to pick out organizational structures today. So you've set up your companies as far as the concept idea, the production and service model you're going with, and financing it. And now we have to figure out exactly how you're going to set up your infrastructure. How are you going to set up your company from conception into growth? So let's go over what is organizational structure. This specifically is the framework in which your business will operate. It's the foundation of how the work and everything is delegated and moved through in governance of the organization, and what will the defined roles and responsibilities of the employees and people and personnel that are attached to the company going to be. There's three different types of organizational structures with functional, divisional, and matrix, depending on what you're looking to do. Functional is grouped according to their purpose. Divisional is segmented based on department or region. And matrix is a hybrid of function and division of both. And these three will encompass how you're going to set up your specific organizational structure by choosing the topology that you're going to be going with. So the organizational structures that we are going to discuss today are traditional hierarchy, web, flat archies, and holacracy. To start with, the traditional hierarchy, which is one of the most common and most widely used organizational structures in the world, is this simple hierarchical structure that many of you have seen or possibly currently still working right now. It's the one rules many philosophy of the top-down structure, where power resonates from the top and slowly trickles down into the communication and lines down into the front-level employees that typically do the day-to-day operations, and it streamlines up. Communication is typically also top down, meaning communication comes from the top and then is moved down through the lineage in order to go through the entire company as it is built as a pyramid structure. There's a set chain of command. So as you go higher on the listing, the power and the command process grows as far as responsibility and power within the organization. And it's not really, this specific structure is not built for much innovation, but for structure and for, process in order for you to have the role associated with what you need to, and then have people managing those specific roles and responsibilities, and etc. This specific process and model has been around for centuries. It's from monarchs to the church to governments. I mean, it's been run and used for a very long time, and it's been a very common methodology that you've seen in most industries and companies today. A newer version that has become a lot more prevalent, especially in the tech space, is web, which is a similar structure as far as the hierarchy, or as far as the top moving through, but the communication lines and the roles and responsibilities are quite different. It's broken up into responsibilities and functions instead of based on power ranking and roles of departments. So each individual department will have its responsibilities, which will spawn other employees or areas which tie into that department. It's used by a lot of tech companies. This specific example that's on here is actually Apple, and this is what Steve Jobs set up for his specific company when he was still alive and working with that organization. It's very easy to scale. When you need to add a new department or function, you simply just add a new area. You designate a person or people to that specific area, and then that specific department will spawn other areas and responsibilities that attach specifically to that role and function. It pushes a lot of self-management because each intertwined functionality department has its own freelancing, but it also does tie directly back into the executive area. But it's a lot more self-managed and structured, and typically traditional roles and responsibilities are much different within this type of functionality. It's great for CEOs that want to be involved in everything. So Steve Jobs specifically liked to know everything about his company and what everyone was doing. So this is a great way of communication flowing from all different avenues, as opposed to traditional hierarchy where the bottom does not communicate with the top, and communication does not typically flow from the bottom to the top, nor does it ever kind of go upwards. This allows for a lot more free flow communication and understanding throughout the entire organization. There is the flat structure, which is very, very common for small organizations and good for startups. Everyone has their own job role and responsibility. There's not much intercommunication or intermingling as far as departments or people working on projects together. Everyone has a specific job, outcome, and responsibility to the organization. That way, it's good for startups. It also lowers conflict and political problems because everyone has a job role and function. There's no titles or managerial roles or anything like that. And then as far as the accountability, you have a specific function and outcome that you are responsible for in a flat organization. This is good for if you have contractors or certain employees that have like just a one-stop shop for functionality. I mean, if you have one person that handles all your marketing area, and you give them a set amount of responsibility and outcomes, like you want them to create a social media feed and do a bunch of different campaigns, you can hold them accountable. They're the one person that's in charge of that. So if it's not done, it's their issue. It's their fault. They had some reason they were not able to do their job function. It's very easy to set up for the beginning, but it's not very easy to scale as the organization grows. As more and more people come into play, it gets very difficult for the person or persons that are managing this flat organization to keep track of what every single person's outcomes and job responsibilities are. So typically it will start to build out. This is where the flatarchies take to precedence, which is a similar type of hierarchical, but it's a little bit more of a flat structure as far as organizations' job roles and responsibilities. There's more managerial placement as far as what people do, but it promotes a lot more communication because typically all the areas of departments will start to communicate with each other to ensure a project or responsibility is being done. It creates a much leaner functioning organization because there's no wasteful positions. Everyone's job typically was created for a need instead of just an instilled position that's just there because it's there, which a lot of wasteful organizations can do. Every tier of the flatarchy has been created because there was a need that had to be filled, and so a person was intertwined in there in order to fulfill that job function. The last one I'm going to discuss, which is a bit different than all of them, is holacracy. A much newer methodology as far as running a business, as far as infrastructure is concerned. Each department essentially manages themselves. So to the diagram to my right on the page, or to your left, depending on how you're looking at it, the holacratic model has sub-departments, so to speak, within an organization. Every single one of those spheres that you're looking at typically essentially is its own company, so to speak. It manages itself, it regulates itself, it delegates its work on its own. It never gets involved in other departments' functionality unless a decision or something is intertwined between the two. If, let's say, marketing and sales have to make decisions that affect one another, then they will meet and they'll discuss it as a group. It's a democratic setup where no one person makes a decision for the entirety of the company. They will make a decision based on the whole group. So if a department has to make a decision, they'll meet as a group for the department and they'll come to a consensus on what they need to do. If another department has to be intertwined for the decision because it affects them, then they will bring them all in and do the same thing. There are no managers or titles of power in this. Everyone has a job function and role, and their responsibility to the company. That is it. There's no vice presidents, there's no directors, there's no managers. That's not how this works. Decisions are made as a collective instead of a single person. So like I said, it's a democratic-based structure where everyone has to have a say in what they believe or feel is the best course of action. An issue with this is it does require complete buy-in from the employees. An organization like I use the example of Zappos that's located in Vegas, which is a very large retailer that's owned by Amazon. They specifically use this function. Now, when the CEO originally moved to this, they had a pretty high attrition rate of senior management and certain director roles because the titles were going to go away. And people felt that their entitlement was there and that they didn't want to go back down to just doing a rudimentary job. So you need a specific mindset of people that want to do the work and not essentially be chasing a title or specific position within the organization. You definitely also need to have the right managers in place because you essentially don't have any managers or titles. You need leaders and innovators within your organization to motivate this. So like I said, it works very well if you have the right employee base and people buy in that are self-motivated, self-managed, and are okay with having consensus and shared power. But it can be daunting because decisions can take a little more time because they are a collective decision making. Not one person can make a decisive decision for the company as a whole. It's easy scalable though. I mean, as you need a department, you build a new one. And that concludes our discussion on organizational structures. For this week, you'll make a choice of which one you would like to infrastructure for your company and go from there. Thank you and have a wonderful day.